Today marks the one-year point since the death of Florida teenager Trayvon Martin. His shooting touched off a national firestorm over guns, self-defense, and race. Martin, you may remember, was fatally shot by Neighborhood Watch volunteer George Zimmerman. And while Zimmerman claims the shooting was in self-defense, attorneys for Martin's family have accused him of following Trayvon simply because Trayvon was black and shooting him in cold blood. We're told Zimmerman is now living somewhere in Seminole County, Florida. He is scheduled to go to trial on June 10th. And look at how his appearance has changed in the past year. On the left, that's Zimmerman in April of last year. On the right, a photo from his latest court appearance. We are told he's gained 100 pounds, nearly 100 pounds. Trayvon Martin was only 17 when he died. He would have celebrated his 18th birthday this month on February 5th. Joining me now for some perspective, Judge Alex Farrar, host of Judge Alex. Judge, great to see you again. And it's amazing. Let me just start. It's remarkable what the stress of being a criminal defendant will do to you. I mean, the physical change in George Zimmerman is rather dramatic.
Yeah, that combined with his inability to really go anywhere, he's one of the most vulnerable individuals after all the rioting and all the threats last year, so he probably spends a lot of time eating and sitting at home. That's not particularly good for your health or your waistline.
Now, we heard just last week that the Martin family attorney filed paperwork that would lay the groundwork for a potential civil suit against George Zimmerman. So now Mr. Zimmerman has to fight these criminal charges, which are obviously his #1 problem, and potentially a civil suit brought by the family. This thing is going to go on for years, is it not? Even if Zimmerman manages to win this criminal trial.
Yeah, I think it is going to go on for years. At the end of the tunnel, there's not really much there for a civil suit that I can see because Zimmerman doesn't really have any assets unless they're planning on going after the community, a homeowners association or something for inadequate security. But frankly, they don't usually have much money either. So I'm not really sure what the goal of it is, other than if they were trying to get him to answer questions for the civil action that could be used against him in the criminal case. It's too late for that. That's not going to happen.
Now, the criminal case is proceeding now on 2 different fronts. On April 22nd, Zimmerman is expected to ask for immunity altogether based on the stand your ground law down in Florida. If he doesn't get it, if he doesn't win that sort of mini trial, then he goes to the real trial on June 10th on second-degree murder. How do you see at this point, a year into it now, Judge, how do you see it playing out?
It's a tough case for the state, no matter how you slice it. Second-degree murder in Florida is not premeditated. It requires an act that's imminently dangerous to another, stemming from evil intent, ill will, spite, hatred. And the prosecution really hasn't shown us anything other than, I think Zimmerman muttered under his voice the A word at some point when he was following them. That alone wouldn't do it. So they have a tough call on the second-degree murder. The stand your ground law, the hearing is, Mara is trying to move it closer to the trial.
That's the defense attorney.
10th. The defense attorney. I think that's because he doesn't really anticipate the judge is going to grant it, and he doesn't want to show his cards that far in advance of the hearing. So strategically, it benefits him to have it closer. But the bottom line is, one way or another, it's still a tough case for the state, but we haven't seen his statement. They've withheld that. That's not discoverable in Florida, or it's not releasable. It's discoverable by the defense. So we don't know. I'm sure they will be highlighting inconsistencies that he's made in his statement to the police.
We saw a lot of statements by George Zimmerman. He gave us a long videotaped statement to the police, and then there was a written statement, and there were inconsistencies between the two. And that's what's going to happen at trial. You know, the prosecutor's going to get out there and compare those two and compare what he says on the stand. And in your judgment, let's say he does not get immunity at the initial thing in April, and he has to go before a jury. How much will all of the media coverage, and, you know, right now Zimmerman's got a civil suit of his own pending against NBC News for what he claimed was a false, and obviously it was a misleading edit that made him sound like he was commenting on Trayvon Martin's race that night. Remember that, where he said he's black?
Yeah.
But they cut out the part where the 911 operator had said to him, "What color is he?" And he was like, "He's black." Anyway, he's got his own civil suit, but that's already in sort of the bloodstream of the potential jury pool. How much does that affect the verdict in this case?
A lot. I mean, that's why the judges have discretion in deciding whether or not to transfer venue to get it out of a hot spot like Sanford, but the reality is that was covered all over the world, not just the country. So like, you know, an O.J. Simpson trial or Casey Anthony trial, you can move venue, but there's only so much you can do. I'm more concerned about the jurors being afraid for their own safety if they vote one way or the other. And unfortunately, there was enough hatred and venom spewed on both sides that it could definitely affect it.
Yeah. Judge, thank you so much for your insights. Good to see you again.
Likewise.
Final note for you. Down in Florida, they reviewed the Stand Your Ground law recently and concluded there was no reason to make any changes to it. So it will stand. Well, breaking news.